Okay, people. So I'm here with Stephen Grayhm. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
Graham?
Yep. Yep.
Splendid. So Stephen, he's feature film directorial debut. That's
Yes,
right,
sir.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. The Secret of the Shinashe?
Sinchanee. Sinchanee.
Sinchanee.
Yeah.
It...
Tough last name. Tough title, but we're there. We got it.
So the funny thing is, a few weeks back, I actually watched oh gosh, it was The Legend of the Ro Ruha is like from Small Town Monsters. It
Mm.
was a documentary about skinwalkers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they had in it, they were talking about this legend of being on sacred ground and people taking like arrowheads and things like that. So one
Mm.
woman was like, yeah, and so I took this arrowhead when I was a kid, and then suddenly I was getting visited. I got visited 5 nights in a row,
Mm.
kept on telling me, put it
Mm.
back, put it back. I don't know why she didn't put it back the first time, but it took 4 more times, and then eventually she put it back and then stopped getting visited. But yeah, when I saw yours, it was just like, oh, huh, that's kind of
There's been a
interesting.
lot of reports of that. There's a lot of over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, a lot of, disrupting, disturbing a sacred burial ground is rule
Mm.
number one, not to break.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just it wouldn't compel me to be, there's like you've heard the rumors. A rumor is good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that
Yeah.
risk of doing that kind
Yes.
of thing. But
Yes.
one person that would take that sort of risk seems to be Oliver. No, Will.
Yeah.
It's
Will.
Will.
Yeah.
Yes, Will.
Yes.
Yeah, got my films mixed
Yeah.
up, man.
Well, the young Will was compelled by it in the movie, but as you learn, without any spoilers, is that you think it's going to go into that direction, and you realize what that burial ground really what it means to the story and to Will's story,
Mm.
to Will's journey. And so I think, like, in keeping with historically correct, attributes in the indigenous community, I've done a lot of research, and then obviously with my own lineage, um, to get it right, where that component is sort of the impetus to his journey as a child and for what's to come, and it kind of come full circle in his adult life.
Oh yeah, it definitely does that.
Yes.
You know, I was really just I thought the way you conveyed anxiety and fear, I thought for a first time director, you really hit that. Right. I
What?
thought there was those moments of the films where I was just like, oh, and you just felt like really just tense for the person and be like, oh, don't.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like, identifying, in my own anxieties in my own life and what that feels like. And then, of course, working in the veteran communities, we hired 10 military veterans and one Gold Star sister on this movie. And having sat with, having, fellowshipped with veterans and their own anxieties of post traumatic stress, um, mental wellness, all of those things informed my filmmaking. And then, of course, you add this beautiful award-winning score by Gary Regula and Ricky Rook, that really elevates the picture. All those elements are there. So I'm glad that I'm glad that you felt that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things with horror films, right? Or, kind of these supernatural thriller type of things where I think sometimes people show you too much, right? And sometimes it's more slashy than suspenseful. And I
Right.
just thought that, because I remember watching The Thing, and you don't see
Mm.
it until right at the end of the film, right? But throughout the film, you're just like, oh, this was
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. And I thought it was like the first Aliens film. There's not a
Yes.
crazy exposure of the, the specter in the room, as it were.
Yeah, that was obviously, intentional. I felt like movies that I had enjoyed, like Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan movie,
Mm,
where Joaquin Phoenix actually sees the alien on that home video, and it's like him jumping out of his chair was all of our experience in the audience jumping out of like, oh my God. But we had to get to that point. And so for me, I wanted this to simmer. I wanted it to be a bit of a slow burn, so you live with the characters, you have a better understanding of them and their plight. So when you get to those moments in the story, that you have a lot more invested in that. And I kind of felt like it was more interesting to kind of let that build and that simmer of, slowly, piece by piece by piece by piece, until it crescendos into um, this paranormal experience.
mm, yes. Now, when you're kind of having to relay that to your actors, right? Does your background in acting, does that help you do that? Or like, how do you
Yeah.
find yourself, conveying things to people?
Right. So I've been in the business as an actor for about 20 years. I started out when I was pretty young, and I worked with a lot of great directors. I worked with some not so great directors, and I've had the fortune to work on some studio films, some really some lower budget fare, television, all that sort of stuff. And so you really pull from that. But I think on a very sort of visceral level, directing an actor, as actors, you're inclined to want to give so much, right? You have, you know, as soon as you call action as a director, a lot of actors, they want to just give. They feel like they have to do something interesting because, you know, the camera's on them.
Mm,
So I found that in a lot of my direction, it was actually just containing a lot of the performances and having more restraint to allow the audience to feel it rather than necessarily the actor to. And I also feel like there's a lot to be said about nuance and subtlety. So, some of the great directors that I've worked with, where I felt compelled, like I felt like my character would want to, take it, whatever it is in that emotion up a notch or whatever. Typically, some of the greats were always like smaller, just like, you're right here. The story is right here. If you tell the truth, the eyes don't lie. And so that always stuck with me, to let the camera do some of the work and the movement, let the score do some of the work. And, um, and I think if it comes, what's said from the heart goes to the heart. And I always felt like, as long as my actors, whether they were the child actors or, the adults in the film, were giving something honest, um, I always felt like we were in a great place. And I felt like I managed to get, beautiful performances out of everybody. That I'm very proud of them all.
mm. Yeah. I mean, what is it like working with the child actors? Because I think it must be, there's definitely a different thing of working with child actors on a comedy to something like this. So how do you get them to show that fear, right? But without, messing up the kid, as it were.
Well, that's something to touch on, spoke to the parents of all children in the film. I gave them my word. I'm never going to manipulate your child to think something that's actually. I want them to always feel safe on set. I'll get performance. We'll get there. If I can talk through it, we'll get there. I didn't want to pull any tricks. This thing, that you can achieve is the trust of the child. You want the child to feel like this place, and then you start to create together. So, in working through this, children, by the way, we're all just, all of them
Oh, I think
has our own show. called Gabby's Dollhouse on Netflix, which is a big hit. Lila had experience with acting. It was very easy to direct her. She's wonderful. She plays Ava in the film. The other two children, who is Will and Grace and Will, they were acted before.
Oh, okay.
I was able to. They're very, very smart, very astute children, and I was able to allow them to just trust their own instinct. I mean, they often one of the worst things you can see on camera is a child trying to act like they don't. And I wanted these children just to be thing in their freedom of a child, for us to follow, would be to or everything did create, feel like they could just be, and then it was our job.
Oh, you're breaking up a bit. Can you hear me? I think it's an internet connection issue. Technology, people. It sometimes bites you in the ass. Can do some amazing things, have conversations with people across, the continents, but a pesky Wi-Fi connection can really, get in the way of things, it would seem. But we will persevere. We will try and make this work. Hopefully, Stephen will be back with us soon, and we can finish off this conversation. But the kids do a really good job, a really solid job in this film, people. Really good performances. So it's interesting to find out that, not a whole heap of direction, but I think we're gonna finish here. We'll see what you can do. Okay. Hopefully we'll be back, but who knows?